Hey, Rebel Rouser. Welcome to Star Wars 7x7. I'm your host, Alan Voivod, and happy 2019 to you. I hope you had a wonderful New Year's Eve celebration and that your new year is already off to a great start and you are looking forward to a year full of Star Wars joy. I've got 365 days of Star Wars joy planned for you on the podcast here. And I want to share with you my New Year's resolutions as regards you and me in this podcast and what I am committing to in 2019. First, I want to start off by saying that we've had some unfinished business over the course of these few years. And so this is resolution number one, not necessarily in order of importance, but certainly in order of the list I wrote. And what I mean by unfinished business, at least on the content side, is that we've talked about things that we've wanted to do on the podcast here, stories that we haven't covered, content ideas that we talked about but hadn't yet pursued. And I want 2019 to be the year that we actually pursue some of those avenues. In particular, there are a lot of stories, novels, and short stories that we haven't talked about here on the show, a lot of comic threads and so forth. And that's in addition to all the new stories that are going to be coming out this year too. So I want to make sure that we pursue those, as well as there was an idea that I talked about in relation to the 40th anniversary about Star Wars from different perspectives, and I want to pursue that as well. So my promise is to close the loop on those things that I've talked about here on the show in the past and make sure that I bring them to you here in 2019. And speaking of unfinished business, this is resolution number 2. On the patron side of the house, there's one particular thing that, unfortunately, I have not been very good at fulfilling, and that is our haikus. And so for folks who are becoming patrons at the 327 level and above, I'm supposed to be writing a haiku dedicated to your favorite either planet or character or vehicle. So I am going to fulfill those promises here in the first quarter of 2019 and make sure that all of those patron haikus are written and enjoyed, and that you understand how much I deeply appreciate your patronage, regardless of what level you're at. But that also is incumbent upon me to actually fulfill that particular aspect of the patronage. And I'm sorry that I have not done so. And I am going to finish that off by the end of Q1. And while we're on the subject of Patreon, we're going to make a couple additional changes to Patreon. So this is my third resolution. Now, you may have noticed that there have been changes to the tiers and the rewards in November of 2018. I'm going to refine it for January of 2019 and going forward. One of the things that's going to change is that the daily updates are actually going to become a reward for all patrons, $1 and up, and the weekly update, the one where it's a weekly preview of what I'm going to be doing, that is going to switch over into the $3.27 and above tier. So that way, folks who are paying a little bit more are going to get to see a little bit further ahead as far as the whole production schedule goes. So that change is going to be implemented as of January 1st. Additionally, that weekly update, as well as the behind the scenes update that I do for patrons at the 1138 level, excuse me, mixed up my numbers, the 1138 level and above, those are going to become bonus episodes of the show. They are going to be video content. They are not going to be just typewritten content. They are going to be actual video episodes of the show, and they will only be available to patrons either at the 327 and above level for the weekly update or at the 1138 level and above for the behind the scenes update. And while we're on the subject of Patreon as well, resolution number 4 is that in addition to all of the content that I'll be producing for Star Wars Celebration Chicago, which if you've been with the show for our previous coverage of Orlando or London or Anaheim, you know that I put out a heck of a lot of stuff during Celebration. There will be additional patron exclusive content. I'm not sure how that's going to shape up as far as the reward tiers and that sort of thing, so that's something that still has to be decided, but there will be additional patron exclusive content around Star Wars Celebration Chicago, so be on the lookout for more details about that. And Another thing that I plan on doing for you in this new year, this is resolution number 5, is more interviews, bringing more voices into the show. Now, I know that if you're a listener or a viewer of Star Wars 7x7, then to some degree you have to enjoy the sound of my voice. And while that's all well and good, and I greatly appreciate that, I know that sometimes it's fun to have other voices join in on the conversation and bring new perspectives and so forth. Some of the most popular shows and some of those shows that got me the most feedback included interviews that we did with people from say, for example, Nick Martorelli, who is one of the producers for the Star Wars audiobooks, to Patrick Johnson, who is a writer about the physics of Star Wars, to Bobby Roberts, who is always a welcome podcast Force Ghost guest on the show. And there have been many others as well. And so I'm committing to do more interviews this year than I've done in previous years as well. All right, resolution number 6 has to do with the fact that the show is now both video and audio. The show has been on video on YouTube and Facebook for almost a year. It'll be a year in March. And so by the time we get to that first anniversary, we will be revamping the studio here at Star Wars 7x7, and I think you will be surprised at the level of changes that we have in mind for this. So stay tuned if you are watching the video version of the show. I think you are going to be very pleased at what you start seeing in the background. It's not just going to be, what you've been seeing over the past, 9 months, and, the occasional switch over to our giant circular display as well. No, we're going to be pulling out maybe not all the stops, but quite a lot of them to improve the video production side of the house. And that is actually going to entail improvements to the audio production side of the house as well. So even if you are just listening to the show on iTunes, on Google Podcasts, on Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you like to listen to the show, you are going to hear a better audio version of the show than you have over the past year as well. So I hope you will enjoy that too. And last but not least is my resolution to you, my promise to you that we are going to be doubling down on our commitment to joy here. I've said from the very beginnings of this thing that this is intended to be a daily dose of Star Wars joy. And, certainly there are going to be times where, it's unavoidable that we have to stray away a bit from joy. For example, when we lose somebody who is beloved in the Star Wars galaxy that passes away, and we will obviously stop the proceedings and the festivities to take time to honor that person and what they have brought into our lives. So, of course, those situations are going to happen, and we will honor them properly. But as far as the rest of our time together, I want you to be able to boot up Star Wars 7x7 knowing that by the end of it, you're going to have a smile on your face, and that you will have a smile on your face for a large part of the show in general, if you're not just, whatever your lost in thought or concentration expression is. But I want you to smile, and I want you to enjoy every moment that you spend with me, because if you're not enjoying yourself, then why the heck are you spending the time? And I very much want to bring the joy of Star Wars to you and as many people as I possibly can with this podcast. So we are doubling down on that joy-filled commitment, and that's going to manifest itself in a lot of different ways. I do hope that you let me know what you think of them, how you think the changes to the show go over the course of 2019. By all means, drop me a line on your favorite outlet or at sw7x7.com to let me know what you're thinking and how things are going. And that is going to do it for today's show. Thank you, as always, so much for joining me. Thank you so much in advance for joining me for another fun-filled year of Star Wars podcasts. And as always, may the Force be with you, wherever in the world you may be.
This podcast is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox. It is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other related Star Wars items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyright 2019 by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.